Baseball is back, and at Team Toyota, savings and selection are back too. With tons of new Toyota SUVs, trucks, and hybrids to choose from, and with our lineup of over 200 certified used Toyotas, you can find the right fit for you and your budget. Plus, our service and collision centers are here to get you back in the game in no time. Visit one of our 3 locations in Princeton, Langhorne, or Glen Mills, or online at teamtoyota.net.
Hola, bonjour. We're back. This is the Phillies Talk Podcast presented by Team Toyota. I'm Spencer McKercher, joined by Corey Seidman over at the ballpark. We sit down here right after the Phillies drop the third game of this 3-game series against the Arizona Diamondbacks. They can't complete the sweep. However, it's another series win, Core, but this one on Sunday, a crazy one. And we'll start with Ranger Suarez as he made his season debut and was cruising, was looking great through the first 2 innings. And as soon as he got in the stretch, things kind of fell apart.
Yeah, Ranger Suarez, the first 2 innings, it was like as smooth as possible, 6 up, 6 down, and he was locating everything, his fastball, his sinker, his cutter, his changeup, his curveball. I mean, he had one at bat against Eugenio Suarez. It was Suarez versus Suarez, and Suarez won it because Ranger threw him a 73-mile-per-hour curveball and then a 93-mile-per-hour fastball to pitch after it that he had no chance against because it probably looked like it was closer to 100 after seeing that slow hook. But yeah, when Ranger Suarez came out in the 3rd and 4th innings, he put guys on base, and as soon as he put guys on base, he was a totally different pitcher out of the stretch. I thought it was interesting that Rob Thompson, after the game, remarked that he thinks it might be because Ranger barely pitched out of the stretch during his minor league rehab assignment. Suarez made 4 starts, and he barely put anybody on base. He was so effective that he didn't spend much time pitching out of the stretch. We asked Suarez that question afterward, did you feel rusty, with runners on base out of that motion? And he said that no, because he practiced out of the stretch for the bulk of his, reps trying to come back here. I would say it's a good sign that his velocity was where you want it to be, 92 miles per hour with the fastball and sinker, and the fact that we saw some glimpses of the very good version of Ranger, but his inability to stop the bleeding in the 3rd and 4th innings, it cost the Phillies on this Sunday because they were down a couple guys in the bullpen. They didn't want to use Tanner Banks. They ideally wanted to stay away from Carlos Hernandez. Suarez is only able to go 3 2/3 innings, allow 7 runs, the second most of his career, the most earned runs of his career. And because of that, the Phillies have to extend Jose Alvarado into a 2nd inning later in the game, and he's less effective. So, all this stuff adds up. The Phillies' top relievers have been taxed. We'll get to a lot on this today, but I, for one, am a little concerned about the usage of Jose Alvarado. He's appeared in 16 of the Phillies' 34 games, nearly half. He's on pace for 76, which is about 10 more than the Phillies' leading reliever last year. And this was already the 3rd time. Sunday was already the 3rd time this season that the Phillies have tried to extend Jose Alvarado for more than an inning. He didn't do that once all of last season. So this guy's arm's going to fall off if you keep using him this way. I know that Rob Thompson knows that. The fact that the Phillies have an off day Monday played into why they, extended him a little bit here, but certainly something to keep an eye on.
It's been a talking point kind of on social media today as we sit down here on Sunday again, and obviously post-game live hit it a lot on Sunday as well, but were you okay? I don't agree with the decision to send him back out there for the 2nd inning. I know Ricky Bowe on postgame was pretty animated. I know John Kruk was pretty animated about sending him out there. It's one of the few times where I disagree with Rod Thompson when he sent Jose Alvarado back out there for the 10th.
Well, there really weren't many options left at that point. They weren't using Tanner Banks, and, they wanted to stay away from Hernandez. They had already used Kerkering, Romano, Strahm, and Ross. So at that point, who's even left? Taijuan Walker was another guy who was going to be available in case of emergency. He walked out to the bullpen as the game went into extra innings. But this is just the result of a starter not going deep into a game and the Phillies not having enough relievers that they can really rely on. I guess you could say they're a man short in the bullpen right now after putting Jose Ruiz on the injured list Saturday with a neck spasm. If they had one more guy in the bullpen, like one more traditional reliever, maybe Alvarado wouldn't have been extended to that 10th inning. But to me, really Sunday, it was less about that decision and more just about the Phillies making untimely mistakes that rendered the comeback meaningless, right? They had a lot of good at-bats late in the game, but it was all for naught because of small moments, small miscues. Alec Bohm is unable to field a tough grounder in the 3rd inning that extends Suarez, or rather the 4th inning that extends the inning. It's probably cost the Phillies 1 run, maybe 2. It's a tough play either way. Bohm's probably not throwing the runner out at first base, but when the ball deflected off his glove, it allows a runner to score, allows guys to advance. There was the play where JT Realmuto tried to take third on a drop third strike and made the third out of third base, which you never want to do. It left a tying run on base. There was Trey Turner and Bryce Stott being unable to execute that double play on Corbin Carroll in the ninth inning. That's a huge play. I mean, Carroll's one of the fastest runners in the majors, one of the hardest guys to double up, but that was like a bread and butter double play. If both guys make the right throw, Stott's flip to Turner was high. Turner doesn't get a grip on the ball, throws it into the dirt. Carroll's safe at first base. Next pitch is an RBI double. If that play's executed, the Phillies go into the bottom of the ninth down 1 run as opposed to 2, totally different game. So all those little things add up. And, it's why to this point, the Phillies are 19-15, but I wrote this today that they still just have not put together like a complete week. They have not gotten on a roll where they're clicking on all phases offensively, defensively, with a full game pitching performance. They'll get on that roll at some point. They just haven't through the first 5 weeks of the season. And it's why they're 19-15 as opposed to 22-12.
And real quick, before we wrap up on Jose Alvarado, I just it'd be remiss to not talk about Princeton Bailey, the Phillies fan that came in there. That was a really cool moment that Jose Alvarado brought him down to the field. Just a really cool moment. And shout out to Princeton Bailey and his entire family. That was a really cool moment.
And there's a really good pull by the TV crew. I mean, the cameraman who spotted him, whichever cameraman spotted him, and the director for going to that shot. I mean, that was really like storybook stuff, the way Alvarado worked out of that jam, struck out the side to strand the bases loaded that night, and Bailey just like mimicking his motions in the crowd. That was awesome. And really, it extended beyond Philadelphia. Like, I saw people nationally picking up on that and people saying it's one of the beautiful things about baseball.
That it is, man. That it is. And it was really cool to see. But back to the baseball side of things here. Yeah, and here's the thing. Like you said, in the complete weeks, it has been frustrating. However, I'm really satisfied with the offense today. Obviously, they just battled. And then things starting to click here, especially the win on Saturday. We'll get to that as well. But, yeah, that fourth inning, I think that really was frustrating for me. That was kind of like the faux pas for me of the entire game. Gerardo Perdomo, yeah. It's been a while. Can't talk yet. But no, yeah, him just taking third base. No one's covering there. No one on the Phillies really even realized it, that he was taking third there. It just a frustrating inning. And I think it does kind of lead back to this team kind of just sits back on their heels sometimes and moments like that. And it goes back to them not having a fully complete week and a fully complete series. But again, the offense I'm very happy with. They battled like crazy today. You and I were talking during the game, 7-2, and I was like, hey, all right, maybe they're just going to settle in here or they'll take it. But no, this offense fought back. And then Kyle Schwarber, obviously, in the ninth inning with a monstrous home run. And then Bohm gets going with a little bloop RBI base hit. Weston Wilson, too, heck of a game from him today. But, yeah, I mean, are you satisfied with the offense production?
I was going to say that really everybody who made like a miscue today on the field, in the field or on the base paths also came through at the plate. Like, JT Realmuto makes that split-second decision to take third base. He's thrown out. Well, he also had 2 hits. He had a big RBI single. Bryce Stott had a big single when he came in as a pinch hitter. Trey Turner singled in extra innings. So all these guys did come through at the plate. And, yes, I agree. The Phillies offense is coming around. You have some guys who are starting to show what they can do. Max Kepler's had a huge week. Big power that he's shown 4 homers in his last 8 games. He crushed the ball to center for a line out on Sunday. And, I mean, he looks like a guy who's going to be able to help, especially against right-handed pitching. Trey Turner's getting locked in. He has like close to a 450 on base percentage over his last 15 games. Harper snapped a 62 plate appearance homerless drought in the first inning on a pitch that was not a bad pitch. I mean, it was like a fastball off the outside corner, and Harper just made solid enough contact on it to hit it over the wall in left field. Bryce did say after the game that he's just really frustrated that he was unable to come through late in the game. He came up in a prime spot to win it, and we're used to seeing him win it, but the pitch that Shelby Miller threw to him, or rather the Jalen Beeks threw to him, just got in on him a little bit too much, and he flew out. But as Harper did say, the Phillies could have just kind of, when they fell down 7-2 on Sunday, they could have just packed it in and said, all right, we won a series, fair enough. But instead, they did keep taking their at-bats, and this is an offense that can do damage and can put up crooked numbers and has put up crooked numbers and scored 7 runs after the 6th inning on Sunday. So, hopefully they can bring that forward into this road trip. Tampa and Cleveland, 2 teams that are based much more around pitching and defense than offense. Both of those teams are the bottom third of baseball in runs scored. So, hopefully the Phillies can score some runs of their own, get out to like a 7-1 lead. I mean, Saturday they beat the Diamondbacks. I think the final was 7-2. And what I wrote was that was like their easiest win of the season. They haven't had many of those. They've had 3 in the last week. They've had last Saturday at Wrigley Field, then they had a 7-2 win over the Nationals and a 7-2 win over the D-backs. But there was a 3-week stretch in April where every single Phillies win was close. And when that happens, it's great that you're pulling out close games, but it also means that you're taxing your bullpen. And that kind of just goes back to what we were talking about earlier, that you're using these key guys more than you'd like to. It's not Jeff Hoffman a couple of years ago where the Phillies brought him into 15 games to pitch more than an inning. You can't do that with Jose Alvarado. And the Phillies are not doing that anymore with Matt Strahm. So they're going to have to figure out different formulas. And in that regard, I guess it's also positive that Jordan Romano has had a couple solid outings in a row. I know the ERA is really high, but with Romano, I think the bigger thing is going to be at the end of the year when you look up how many scoreless appearances did he have. If it's like 48 out of 60, it doesn't matter if his ERA is 5.5, So
Fine.
I do agree. There were some positive signs. Look, they won a series. They've won 6 out of 9 since being swept by the Mets. So it's not like it's all doom and gloom or anything like that. It just would have been a big win to pull out that sweep Sunday, make a spirited comeback, the type of comeback we've seen the Phillies make many times over the last couple of years.
And you've mentioned the bullpen a lot here. I don't know about you, man. The Carlos Hernandez experiment, I don't know if it's not working out the way that Phillies fans. I thought I love the addition. We'll see what his usage is going forward here, but he's obviously struggled a lot recently. But
it looked like he might be on a chopping block because the Phillies had to activate Ranger Suarez, and we were all kind of looking around like who's going to be the roster casualty, because usually in a bullpen, the last guy in the bullpen has options, minor league options, so you can cycle him out when you need a fresh arm. But the last guy in the Phillies bullpen is Carlos Hernandez, who does not have minor league options. So you were thinking, okay, it might be him. I mean, he's put a lot of guys on base, a lot of runs. I will say Sunday was a difficult spot to bring him into because he's pitched a lot recently, and the Phillies did not want to utilize him on Sunday after I think he pitched 2. He pitched 1 inning Saturday. He pitched
and let up the home run. It would have been.
He's pitched 4 out of 6 days. So that's really what it is. He pitched Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. So kind of overexposing him a little bit too. But now it'll be curious to see like Taijuan Walker's usage because he moves to the bullpen now. He's probably going to be a long man. I don't think the Phillies are going to use him in leverage, especially right away. But maybe he can work his way into that role. Pitched pretty well in 6 starts to Taijuan Walker.
Yeah, and Rob Thompson mentioned, we'll switch to Taijuan here. Yeah, Rob Thompson mentioned it was kind of a tough conversation. He mentioned this after Saturday's win. Obviously, it is always a tough conversation, especially when you're dealing with a competitor like Taijuan Walker, moving to the bullpen. Obviously, this is the first start for Ranger Suarez, so we'll see going forward. It wasn't his best start, but again, like you mentioned, he didn't really get a lot of rehab pitching out of the stretch. So we'll see. I'm not really worried about Ranger even after today, obviously. But Taijuan moved to the bullpen. It was just such a weird sight to see, I guess, on Sunday, seeing him in the bullpen after he just pitched on Friday or Thursday. And now here we are where Taijuan Walker has moved to the bullpen. Rob Thompson mentioned they're not going to go to a 6-man right now, but he's not going to rule out a 6-man rotation at some point. Obviously, Andrew Painter is moving up to AAA here. We'll get to that in a second. But I mean, I'm completely okay with not going to a 6-man rotation just yet, especially with Zach Wheeler. Obviously, we know what his rest days are. We know he likes his rest days, likes to stay consistent every 5 days, especially when you have Jesus Luzardo pitching as well as he's pitched to start the season. You want those guys, you want your 1 and 2 guys to have the perfect amount of rest, in my opinion. I mean, we knew this was coming once Ranger came back. What are you looking forward to, I guess, with Taijuan moving to the
Well, first of all, with a 6-man rotation, the Phillies have an off day in 5 of the next 6 weeks. So if you were to go to a 6-man rotation now, that means everybody's pitching once a week for the next 6 weeks pretty much. And that's just – it doesn't make sense. I mean, maybe if you have a bunch of guys who are injury prone or you have concerns about their workloads, but that's not the case with this pitching staff. It's the only move to make. I mean, it's not like it's the right move or the wrong move. It's the move to make. I mean, Taijuan Walker pitched well in Ranger Suarez's stead. 2.54 ERA in 6 starts. There were also 5 unearned runs. So it's not like he was as good as the 2.54 ERA. I'd say he's closer to like in between. But I think of this as like a job well done by Taijuan Walker. He came in and he showed the Phillies that he can get outs again. Like he's learned how to pitch with a diminished fastball. He has added a little bit of the velocity that he lost after a strenuous offseason program. So I look at this more so as Taijuan Walker showed in the month of April that if another injury pops up, the Phillies have a viable spot starter. They have a viable 6th starter who can re-enter the rotation. Probably also boosts his trade value a little bit if another team has interest at some point. Again, the contract plays a huge role in that. A team's not going to assume most or all of that contract. He's still owed the remainder of $18 million this year and then $18 million next year. But
I feel like we talked about that contract for
sure. But yeah, I mean, like when you think about it, like this was the best case scenario. It was Taijuan Walker coming in and delivering 6 solid starts for the Phillies. And it's kind of funny that fans now are saying, hey, he pitched well enough to, some fans are saying he pitched well enough to stay in the rotation. But another guy who's pitching really well right now is Aaron Nola, who started his season poorly. Started 0-5, lost 5 straight starts, but his last 2 have been really good. The one at Wrigley Field and then the one against the Diamondbacks, 2 difficult offenses. The Cubs have the best offense in baseball so far this season, scoring like a half run per game more than any team. Diamondbacks hurt you with power and with speed, but Nola, 7 innings, 1 run against the Cubs, 6 scoreless against the D-backs. And against the D-backs, he overcame some shaky command early. So I know that he's a punching bag, a popular punching bag when things aren't going well for Aaron Nola. But this is a reminder of why he is a workhorse, why he's, one of the highest paid pitchers in baseball, because he's, if he's feeling good, it doesn't matter how top tier the offense he's facing is. I mean, I think back to earlier in his career when he would go to Yankee Stadium or go to Fenway and have success. The velocity's creeping up. Nola's velocity in his last start was 92.2, which was a season high. And he looks more like the guy that we've seen historically than he did in that month of April.
And we can shout out to the hot, humid weather on Saturday there. I guess he mentioned that after his post-game comments. The humidity helped. I love that. It's not like a main talking point for Aaron Nola, but the best part is he's like, oh, yeah, it was warm. It was great. And that, obviously, the velocity increased there. And Rob Thompson mentioned after Saturday's game as well that he's never really worried about the velocity. It's Aaron Nola. And you mentioned the contract. Either way, I think anybody in the majors right now, they would have paid Aaron Nola the same amount of money that the Phillies would have paid him, or that the Phillies did pay him. And I think anybody right now in the Major League Baseball would take Aaron Nola in their pitching staff.
Well, yeah, any team would take him, and I don't think any team would have given him that contract, but I think he would have gotten a contract like that in free agency. Like there would have been multiple teams willing to do it. Right, yeah. And so that's what it took. But what's been key for him the last 2 starts is that he's had his entire repertoire working. Like he hasn't just had to rely on the curveball with 2 strikes or had to rely on like the comeback 2-seamer with 2 strikes, because he's had the cutter and he's had the changeup and he's had the 4-seam fastball. So I'm really optimistic about what I'm seeing out of Aaron Nola. I mean, you look at this, like the Phillies are 19-15 as we sit down to record this, right? That's a 91 win pace. So it's been very uneven. And like we said, they haven't really clicked on all cylinders yet, but they're still on a 91 win pace without playing their best baseball. So that, that's a glass half full type thing, I would say. You look at the scope of the National League, the Mets are off to this really strong start, right? So there's this idea that if the Phillies are going to make the playoffs, it has to be through the wild card. I would just caution you that there's 5 months left of the season. The Phillies are like, 3-4 games behind the Mets that can be made up in the span of a series. They need to play better against the Mets in those head-to-head matchups, but so much time to go. And you think back to that hot start the Phillies got out to last year, and then we saw as the season wore on that it didn't matter. The only reason that hot start mattered is that it allowed the Phillies to stack wins and put themselves in a enviable position in the standings, entering playoff time. But it doesn't matter how you start. It matters how you how you find your groove throughout a long season. And this team's going to find its groove. I mean, the slug is coming. We've seen that as the weather's warmed up. Like some of these guys are starting to hit for more power. And with Nola, you're right that it's always a talking point year after year, is the fact that he performs better in hot weather. But the funny thing is that in the month of April, he drew the short straw like every single start. Every start was like 45 degrees with wind chill that made it feel like 37, or there was rain, or there was both of that, So finally, he got to pitch under some nice conditions against the D-backs.
And it's really nice that the Phillies gave him some run support too on Saturday. You mentioned I was thinking the same thing when the game was going on. I was like, this is the easiest win they've had so far this season. It was just a nice cruising through the game. And like I said, it helped that he got some run support, because what's the stat? It was something crazy where I think the Phillies only gave him when he was in the game pitching. It's not the final box score after the game, but it was something like they only gave him 6 total runs in his first 5 starts. And obviously his first 5 starts too. He's 0-5 with a 6.43 ERA, 31 strikeouts to 11 walks. Now his last 2 starts, the ERA is 0.69, 13 innings, and he has 14 strikeouts, only 2 walks. He found that command, and obviously, as we mentioned, the weather kind of helps with that with Aaron Nola.
Yeah, and he shaved like 2 full runs off his ERA from 6.43 to 4.61. And the other pitching note is that Jesus Luzardo did not have his best command either in his last start, but he was able to work around it. And that showed me some maturity. Like, that showed growth out of Jesus Luzardo, that if he doesn't have everything, like if he doesn't have both breaking balls and the 99 and the ability to miss bats and execute, like getting ahead with quality strikes, like when it's not all pinpoint for him, that he's still able to find some success, still kept the Phillies in a game that they won. So the rotation, tons of great signs. Bullpen, you have some guys coming around like Romano. Matt Strom's also pitched really well lately. He only threw 7 pitches on Sunday, all of them strikes in a 1-2-3 inning. So you need to figure out the usage for Jose Alvarado. Need to get Ranger Suarez on track. His next start is going to be Saturday in Cleveland. But, the Phillies also got to start playing well on the road. They won that series at Wrigley Field, but prior to that, they had been swept by the Mets. They lost the 2 series in St. Louis and Atlanta. So this will be a good test here against the Rays and the Guardians, 2, I would say, like mid-tier American League teams. Cleveland might end up winning its division because the division's weak, but the Rays are not the difficult team they've been in years past, especially offensively.
Yeah, and now, like you mentioned, this is another big road trip because you just mentioned the St. Louis and the Atlanta series weren't their best series. Now the Phillies at home, though, they're 13-6 at home currently. The home cookings will always be there. Now, if they can continue on the road, Tampa, Cleveland, hopefully a fun series. And I do think the offense will hopefully continue to keep finding its groove a little bit. And
they have Wheeler, Sanchez, Luzardo going in the Tampa series, which is as good a setup as any team can have in a 3-game series. So good luck to Tampa Bay's bats.
And good luck to some of the fans over in those in the old AAA park down in Tampa. Should be fun. Kyle Schwarber obviously crushing balls now, and Bryce hopefully can get going a little bit. So we'll see how that goes. See some long home runs down in Tampa as we get going here. So for Corey Seidman, hey, it's good to see you again. Always good to see you. Corey Seidman at the ballpark. I'm Spencer McKercher. We'll catch you guys after the Rays series. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you guys soon.